I'm Brad, and I've been a tour guide for nearly 10 years. It's been my pleasure to show the best that my country has to offer to the hundreds of guests I've hosted over the years. Now you get to be my guest as I take you on an eco tour of paradise. Hey guys, welcome back. Brad here with Brad's Bahama Eco Trips, and this is the Rocky Coppice. Okay, the Rocky Coppice is characterized as a transitional zone in between our mangrove ecosystem and our pine forest, and it has a lot of limestone in place where traditionally you would find soil in other ecozones in the Bahamas. So rocky, meaning the fact that there's quite a bit of rock and little to no soil, and coppice meaning wooded area. Now these areas are also prone to flooding. Okay, when we do have heavier tides, the flood tides, certain times of the month, when the water level goes up significantly higher than usual at high tide, these areas could potentially be flooded. So what you would find in areas like this is particularly halophytic vegetation, salt-tolerant vegetation, the same types of vegetation that you would find in, say, the mangrove. Okay. Now, some of the common types of vegetation found in this ecosystem would be buttonwoods. So, like our other segment on the whiteland coppice, where you would see buttonwoods creeping into an ecozone outside of the mangrove, you would also find the same in the Rocky Coppice. Now the buttonwood again does not act as the other types of mangrove that grow in the Bahamas act, meaning that it is not viviparous in its nature. It has to drop a seed in soil to germinate. Okay? And outside of the buttonwood, you'll also find some black mangroves occasionally, because again, this area would be prone to flooding. And the black mangrove, which is right over there, also can find its home in this area. Again, the black mangrove has those very interesting roots that we call pneumatophoric roots, fancy word for snorkel. They stick up high enough out of the ground, in the case here, the harder limestone, less soil and harder limestone, and the water to be able to access the oxygen from the air, from those raised pores or lenticels that you would find necessary for its exchange of gases. But in any event, just like the mangrove being an anoxic environment and no oxygen can be obtained in the soil, Rocky Coppice would not have any soil. So it's the same process of them having to get that oxygen from the air. So that's why they would be able to transition into this ecosystem. Okay. We also find Ming trees. Ming trees are quite common in the Rocky Coppice as a bonsai style to it, and it is riddled with thorns. These thorns are a deterrent for animals like raccoons, one of our invasives that could potentially get up into the trees and attack nests. So birds tend to frequent the Ming tree so they can establish a nest for themselves. We can also find oxeye plants. We also have what's known as cataleopis. We also have some cedar trees, mahogany, and a number of others. Now, very interesting about areas like this is that due to the fact that this is a halophytic environment, we also happen to find xerotropic types of vegetation. Now these can categorize a number of vegetations that retain fluid, succulents, vegetations that have a thick, tough cuticle, and they prevent the loss of hydration. They do very well in dry, arid conditions. And a dry, arid condition can sort of parallel an environment that has a lot of salt that draws away a lot of the freshwater aspect. So we find a number of succulents intermittently. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is growing on this buttonwood. If you look very closely, you'll find a bromeliad. Now, unlike the other bromeliads that we would cover in our other segments that are terrestrial, this would be considered an epiphytic bromeliad. An epiphyte means air plant. And these small plants have the ability to grow from a host plant. Unlike the love vine, which we covered earlier, which is a parasite, which actually draws nutrients and sustenance from its host plant. The bromeliad here, in this case the pot-bellied bromeliad, actually has the ability to draw its nutrients from the air, and that is a positive thing for its host plant. Obviously, it's not taking any life from it. So in environments like this, we're going to find more birds and raccoons. Not so much things like snakes, because this area again does flood, so you can get salt water coming up in this area. And some of the species of snakes that we have prefer cooler, more damp, freshwater environments. So in the blackland coppice and in the pine forest, you'll find more of those species. We have over 10 species of snakes, native snakes in the Bahamas. The Bromeliaceae family of flowering monocots, like this one right here, is over 3,000 species found worldwide. About 50 are native to this region. And one of our more popular bromeliads, although not epiphytic but terrestrial, would be pineapple. Pineapple is native to the Bahamas. But in the case of these little guys, the epiphytic variety, they're able to attach themselves to the vegetation and not really draw any kind of sustenance from its host plant, but grow independently. It's growing on a dead Ming tree right now. In the case of a parasite, it would not be able to last very long on a dead type of vegetation. Just like to send a shout out to the Ministry of Tourism's Tourism Today Bahamas Facebook page for posting one of our videos on their Facebook page and showing their support. 242 to the world. I'm glad I got to share this part of my home with you. If you've enjoyed the tour, be sure to click the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Maybe I'll see you on our shore soon.